Welcome, everybody, to the CFF List Waiver Watch Draft for Week 10. I'm Jay Mill. I got my partner, Willie B, as usual. How you doing, Willie?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful this morning.
It was a great week of college football. We're very excited to have our final semifinalist from Week 2, his Week 2 performance of 95.7 points, the godfather of college fantasy football, John Lobb, the gridiron scholar himself. How you doing this morning, John?
I'm doing great. I will say this, as the college fantasy football season gets deeper and we get closer to the playoffs, I get less and less sleep on Saturday nights. I stay up later and I'm up by 6 o'clock. So, yeah, my sleep on the weekends is kind of off right now, but I'm all right.
I was mentioning with that, those West Coast games were good last night. The Hawaii game was treacherous, starting at midnight Eastern time. So we probably all have a few extra bags under our eyes this morning. But one thing we wanted to do, and normally we jump right into last week's results, but last night was actually one of the more exciting late nights, probably the most exciting late night for college fantasy football. I know in our league, the one we consider the priority this year, the Kings Classic, Willie B and I were up against Jared, who's actually battling to keep the high points because his record's not so good. So he's trying to keep that high point status so he can make it in as the number 3 seed. Willie and I co-own the team that's in first place and have been undefeated all season. We were down 88-0 after the Wednesday and Thursday games, and it took it literally until the fourth quarter of the Hawaii game to take the lead by zero point 0.4 points and remain undefeated against Jared last night. So it was just incredible. Like, we've actually clinched, but like college fantasy just grips you where even if you know you've clinched, like there was something about wanting to stay undefeated and especially to do it against Jared in a gruesome fashion, like just to grind back all day long and all week long to just chip away at his 88-point lead. But then on top of that, John was in like a 260 to 250 point battle.
Oh, my God.
I know he said, John, yeah, how did that night go for you?
Yeah, I don't think I've clinched yet. I was kind of looking at it. I know you gentlemen have both clinched, so you're in. I think I have to win one of the two to guaranteed in. So I was down at one point. Shane Hallam, who's a great player, he was a champion last year. And I was down by like 20. I'm like, God darn it. You know how you're like, I'm going to lose. But then all of a sudden, Ollie Gordon, Omarion Hampton, and I'm going to get his name, Alec Iamar, the wide receivers from Stanford. They just blew up. I was like, oh my God, I'm in this game. So, and then I was up by 18. I fell asleep, and he had Malik Freeman. Is that the running back? No, Malik, the running back at Fresno. Sherrard at Fresno State. I won by 2 points. Like it might be in my 15 years, the top 5 all-time games that I've been a part of. As far as like closeness, importance, like the result, it was awesome.
Yeah, and it's one of those for Shane that you just feel for him because he had. I didn't look closely, but I'm sure he had the second highest point total in the entire league, and that's the worst. You get the second highest score among everybody, and then you still end up losing. So I think you may have even knocked him out of potential playoff contention. But we'll find out. There's like 5 teams that are going to battle for those third and fourth spots. It looks like, which makes it even more exciting. And thank you for inviting us in, and we've had a ball, and that we have hour-long conversation every week to talk about who we're going to pick up and drop, and so far we've gotten lucky and also made some pretty good start-sit decisions, but it's kind of, we balance each other out. We told Jared where I think Willie would tend to just cut guys really quickly if they make him upset. I might hold on to guys too long. So we kind of talk each other into some nice middle ground there in terms of being patient, just patient enough with guys, as I think where we've gotten into a nice groove there. But yeah, we'll keep everybody informed of the playoffs when it gets there. But really, thanks again for having us. I know Willie's going to be out there live next year. He's already put it on the calendar, and can't wait.
Oh, that's awesome! I mean, I've been thinking about next year already. I was telling my wife I can't wait for our vacation. I love going out there. It'll be nice to meet Willie. I met you last year. Jeremy, I'm sure you told Willie about us in the Hall of Fame in that beautiful room. So it's a nice weekend, no question.
We're going to keep the show moving. We're going to get into yesterday's contest, the Week 9 results. Nino ended up being the big winner again, and big props to Nino Brown. He had the highest score of all of our guest pickers during the season with 133. He's trying to prove that he didn't just get lucky. He said last week in the semifinals picks that, he thought he got a little lucky. But, when you go 133 during the regular season, you go 127 here in our guest semifinal round, I think Nino's maybe doing a little rope-a-dope and knows a little more about college. He tries to pretend like he's more of an NFL guy, an IDP guy, but it's pretty clear Nino knows what he's doing here when you go 133 and 127, which are basically like the third and sixth best scores we've ever had. So big props to him. Looking through his lineup quickly, he absolutely nailed it with Aguiar. I think fortunately for App State, they were in a much closer game against Southern Mississippi than anybody ever expected. So he kind of got the benefit of a big-time shootout there with App State and Southern Miss. He called it a homer pick. We told him no, it was just a good pick with Kai Robichaux taking the lead there. And really, I don't know if Garwo, even if he gets healthy, is going to ever get back the way Robichaux's been looking. Concepcion, Jared pointed out that, he, as a true freshman coming off of a bye week, Kevin Concepcion is a true freshman there, got 30.4 for him. And even one of his bad picks, because we're looking for 15 points for the running backs and the wide receivers, you got to even give him props on the Kadarius Callaway pick with 13.9. That was close enough to the 15. So across the board, Nino was really solid. Looking at Willie and I had 81.4, not quite reaching that 90 threshold that we like to get. We're looking for 20 from quarterbacks, 15, like I said, from running backs and receivers, and hopefully you can get 8 to 10 from a tight end to get you up in that 88 to 90 point range. But Mekhi Hughes continues to be solid. Didn't have a big game, but I think if you needed to plug a hole, you'd take the 17 that he got. John can speak on it later, and he's still eligible this week. So we'll see if Cam Edwards goes to anybody this week. He plugged in for Rosa. He's taken advantage of his opportunity, so he's going to make it tough, even if Rosa's healthy, for Rosa to get back into that spot. And then the guy that I was most excited to get last week was Noah Smith, who's just proven to be Mr. Everything for Sam Houston, who, by the way, has turned into a really exciting fantasy team. They've now got a guy at every position just about that you might want to consider, from quarterback to running back to receiver. And again, as we make our picks, all three of the guys at the positions I just mentioned that you want are still available. So we'll see if they go into today's draft. Henderson, he's had some big games. He's had some really bad games. He just basically had a pretty mediocre game here with 12.2. And then Marshall has just fallen apart. So thinking that Cade Conley might bounce back after his injury didn't really work out for me. He only got 4.2, not disgusting. Like, you can have the 1 or 2 points from a tight end, but definitely not good. So Willie, I'll let you run through your performance and Jared's. Jared had a solid day, but what'd you think about your team this week? I'd say you did a decent job, but I know you're never happy if you don't reach that 90.
Yeah, no, Nick Anderson is kind of like what you were saying as far as Jared and after the bye. He did really well after the bye. Yesterday, they just underwhelmed, just kind of like what they've done in the past. I know we'll talk about that on our next pod tonight, a little bit more in depth, but it's just what they do. I'm done with Cincinnati players, Shimon Mateer, that tight end. Everyone knows how I feel about Henderson. I think he had a down week. So, and then
you're just done with Cincinnati.
Yeah,
period.
I'm just done. I'm just done with that. Javon Baker, it was okay. I expected a little bit more with them going against West Virginia. And then Jonah Coleman, thought he could provide a little bit. His 6.7 wasn't quite enough to do anything.
Yeah. Were you watching that Arizona game much? Because basically it looked to me that basically not only is Wiley back, but they've got another guy named Williams who now they've kind of got a three-headed monster, unfortunately for you, with the Coleman pick. Wiley's back, and they're working another guy into the rotation. So it's like they're splitting carries among three guys now.
Exactly. And they were hyping up that other kid. But I really liked what Tuden did. And then, of course, McLeod, he continues to be a player. So didn't quite get where we were, but I'm really just trying to keep you from that ninth win, because I think I won 9-4 last year. So just trying to make sure you don't get that ninth win this year. That's what it comes down to.
And maybe quickly take us through Jared's team, and then we'll get to the action everybody tunes in to see here. With the
he did really well with Chandler Rogers, of course, with his 33.5. Cooley was a little cool with the 13-6, and then the Sion Vaki was the one I was thinking about taking that chance, but I just couldn't do it, and it proved to bite him. The 1.1, that was disastrous as far as him trying to make it to the final.
And real quick note on that is Jared's 87.7 ended up being about 7 points behind Chris Moxley, who the week before had scored 95. So, John, as we look forward, Moxley's 95 is the score to beat if you want to come back and join us in the finals next week, which I think you made it to last year also. And as a substitute for Matt Hicks, we let you come back and redeem your first round last week. But, 95 is going to be your score to beat today, John. But sorry to interrupt you. I just since we were talking about Vaki, I think Vaki is what really cost him that finals spot to get over 95.
Yeah, and then I heard on another pod, there people were talking about Oscar Delp, and that he could be that replacement for Bowers, and that he could be just as good. I do not believe that, not one bit. And Delp with the 5.1, that also hurt him. So I mean, you're not gonna replace Bowers, just next man up. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen.
Right. Yep. But I have to say, you guys across the board, you killed me at quarterback. We had 3 out of our 4 quarterbacks we recommended over 30 points, guys, and we're talking about guys that were available in less than 30% of leagues going into week 9, and we found 3 quarterbacks that scored over 30. I had the dud with Peasley. He chose this week to have one of his only weeks under 20, and Wyoming as a whole just disappointed wholeheartedly against Boise.
Well, I did text you. I'm after I saw the Genty injury, which is really what I was looking for to see what happened there. I did see Peasley, have a problem with his left wrist. I mean, he's right-handed, but there was an issue there. So I don't know if he actually even finished the game. I think he was like 10 of 19 or something like that. But I'm not sure he finished the game. So that may have hurt you there.
That makes sense, because I know his score kind of seemed to stall out about halftime. He didn't really gain any more points in the second half than I saw, him acquire in the first half. So, but again, overall, I think we had a good group performance. That's what you would expect in a semifinal round with some of our best guys coming back. John, that puts the pressure on you. We've got 3 of us. Unfortunately, Brandon from CFF University is down a little bit under the weather. He was our number 6 seed, so made it easy just to say, all right, we're not going to replace him because he was number 6 anyway. So we'll go with John here to carry the load and see if he can work his way into the finals for next week and how it goes today. And John, you've actually, speaking of that, you've got the first pick. And right into this thing.
No, I just want to thank you for having me on again. I really like this show. Now that I've gotten a little bit more used to it, I kind of understand a little bit of the strategy. And now you just laid the gauntlet down that I have to get 95 points. So it's going to a little bit change what I've been thinking, because I need to get high-end possibilities. So I'm looking here, and I was just looking at the waiver wire list. You know how we all look at the database. I'm going to go Noah Smith, and here's why. He's at 27%, so luckily he's under the 30% threshold. I didn't think he would be, but he should be on 50% by now, but that's another story, right? But he plays Kennesaw State. Woohoo! An FCS
right.
Bowl. I will take it. Yum, yum. Hopefully lock in the 20 points minimum.
Right.
And again, I mentioned Sam Houston. it's amazing that I think they're 0-7 or 0-8, but we've got to see we've been able to watch them every week, and you feel bad for them because they are not playing like an 0-7 or 0-8 team. They come out with enthusiasm every week. They look like they're going to win every single week, and then they just get heartbroken, every single weekday game that you watch them. But I think the strategy of putting them on in the middle of the week every week has kind of worked to kind of gain some notoriety, because now you're really kind of cheering for the team and rooting them on to get that first FBS win.
I was thinking about what you were talking about earlier. I don't remember a team that's never won a game with this interesting of an offense. Like, they're actually fun to watch, and you would like to see them break through with 1 or 2 victories at least by the end of the season, because they are playing hard for the coach. I give the coach credit. Those kids have not stopped playing.
Yeah. And what I'm really interested in, and probably will watch this game. So before I say this, how long do you think Smith and company will play, or do you think it's going to be
so
an even
kind of going back
match?
to how we have to think about week 1 and 2 when you're playing against smaller FCS schools? Like, will Noah Smith play enough? And I think this is a case where they want to win so bad, and even if they're up by 30, I think he's going to let these kids get all their frustration out. And I think this will be a game where they play deep into the third quarter, minimally, if they got a big lead.
That's what I thought. I thought they'd play 3 quarters.
Okay. And then piggybacking on that, and the reason why I want to watch this, because Kennesaw State is the team that's moving up next year also.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which might make it more competitive. Maybe Kennesaw State can still
right.
win
And
this.
and if I'm not mistaken, and it's going to be Conference USA, right? So there'll be conference foes. Okay,
yes.
Interesting. Right. All right, so they gotta maybe set an example here of you're not going to come next year.
Exactly.
All right, yeah, I like the pick, John. He was my guy last week. I was hoping to get him again this week. Receivers and running backs have been pretty tough now that we get deep into the season with the larger percentage gone. But with that said, I've got 2 receivers I like a lot that are left.
Is this you or me? Or are you jumping the gun?
I was about to give away my card.
Okay. I'm gonna say.
Okay, good. All right, so Willie, go ahead. I mean, I'm glad I didn't get a name out of my mouth at least.
I got you. I should have.
Let me go.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm not gonna let this guy slip. I don't care that they're playing Miami. NC State is actually doing a really, really good job lately. They're not stringing along the wins that they should, but we're gonna go Kevin Concepcion. Somehow he is still only 23% rostered. He has 30.8, 15.6, and then 30.4 yesterday. And that was against Clemson. So I think he should, fare reasonably well against that Miami defense.
All right. I like it. I mean, he's been on fire, in these last couple of games that he's had. So he's got, I have my notes, he's got 29.6 in 3 of his last 5 and 30 in 2 of his last 3. So, this is a true freshman that's certainly caught up with the older guys in terms of knowing what he's doing out there on the field. All right, so you took one of the 2. I mentioned that I only had 2 receivers that I liked a lot that were left. So thankfully that leaves me 1, and that's Elijah Metcalf from Middle Tennessee. He's a guy that we actually just picked up in the Kings Classic last week, coming off of the bye. He's got some really good matchups, not just for this week where he's playing New Mexico State, but if you're looking for a guy for your playoff run, Elijah Metcalf's got some really good matchups there in weeks 11, 12, 13, if I'm not mistaken. He's averaged 14.8 on the season, but the last 2 weeks he's had 27 and 18. He's got another kind of high 20-point game a few weeks ago. And in the Middle Tennessee offense, just looks like they've figured out, how to move the ball in the air very well. Vatiano at quarterback is looking actually pretty good. And I don't know. I don't think of Middle Tennessee as kind of a high-powered offense from years past, but this year they're doing really well throwing the ball, and they seem to have gotten into a good rhythm. And Metcalf's a big part of that. He's 11% owned, so you should be able to get him even in your deep leagues. That'll be my first pick. And John, just as a reminder, we're just since we've just got three, we're going snake draft just for my pick. So I get the back to back, and then we're just going to go single picks all the way back through here.
Okay. So I go
right,
after
so
you.
No, then it'll be me, and then Willie, and then back to you.
Okay.
But then you're only getting a single pick.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, and then I think just to keep things fun and interesting, I'm going to stay on that Sam Houston bandwagon. I'm going to take their running back, Sam Gentry. I like the matchup with him running against Kennesaw State the same way John likes Noah Smith catching the ball against Kennesaw State. He's had over 14 in three of his last four. He's in two of those were over 25 points. He's gotten double-digit carries in three of the last four also. But he's also, since they are passing the ball so much, he's actually being utilized in the pass game, and he's getting 4 to 5 targets a game. So he's getting you those extra bonus points. So if you're in a PPR league, which most of us are these days, he's a running back who is going to also get you, at least 3 to 4 extra points catching the ball out of the backfield. And again, I love the matchup. These guys are going to try to get everything out of their system that's been building up. So big week for Sam Houston, and unbelievably, after wondering all year, or at least through week 7, who their fantasy guys were going to be, we've now got 2 Sam Houston guys in the waiver watch draft, which in some weird way is kind of exciting to me. So,
in a weird way.
Some weird way that excites me. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. But we're going to go Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green.
I had him on the short list.
He is
Yep.
He is 23% owned, and now Ball State comes to town. Fantrax has him 83rd against running backs.
Right.
He's going to get you that double-digit carry, and so hopefully he can get in the end zone, keep that ball rolling. He had 3 tutties against Akron, right. So feel comfortable with him, and others should be also picking him up, especially the next 2 weeks. They go to Kent State the week after.
He's another good long-term guy here for a playoff run, I think. He's had 19 carries in the last 19-plus carries in the last 3 games. So he's really seen his workload increase from the compared to the first half of the season. Good pick. Okay, John.
All right. So I was going to go wide receiver, but since you guys have left a few on the board from me, I'm going to pivot here. Mm-hmm. And I might have been one of the only people in the nation watching this game, other than maybe Nino. I'm going to go Kai Robichaux, the running back of Boston College. If you look at his box score, the last 4, 21, 4, a dud, but 21 and 23 carries. Now, I like it. They're playing Syracuse. And I don't know what has happened to Syracuse, but they seem to be falling apart. Like I don't feel like they're playing that hard. And I know Boston College is going to run the football. Obviously, Garko is the X factor, but we don't really know when Garko. So this far out, I'm willing to take the risk that Robichaux gets another 20 carries this week.
Yeah, and he's been doing a lot with those carries too. So
yes.
Even with Castellanos running the heck out of the ball, like it's basically those 2 guys. It's Castellanos and Robichaux now. So he was definitely on my list. I guess that would probably be an official snipe, I think, by John right there. All right, Willie, back to you.
All right, so just so I'm not having to dig deep mm-hmm. down the list, we're gonna go Malik Sherrard from Fresno State,
the guy that almost bit John last night.
Almost.
Yep.
He is 26% owned. Like I said, they get Boise this week. Another guy coming. Let's see here. Looking at his
20
games.
20 plus.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 5 straight games, double-digit carries. Not much to not like, other than he doesn't necessarily get in the end zone on the ground every week, but he did have 1 through the air this week, and then he had 22.4. So we're going to go
Yeah,
Malik
he's
Sherrod.
similar to Gentry. The only note I had that you didn't mention, Willie, is he's had at least 3 catches in 4 of the 5 last games, 4 of his last 5. So he's another guy that catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. So even though he may not, always get a touchdown, he's going to get those extra points for catching the ball in those yards as well. So, all right. So I only get a single pick here, and I'm feeling like the running backs, I've got one that I really like left. So I'm going to take the guy you had last week, who's still 26% rostered, which is Tootin from Virginia Tech.
I knew it.
Yeah.
He's going against Louisville. A pretty tough matchup, but just based on the activity he's been getting and the volume he's been getting during his games, I'm not so worried about that. He's had at least 17.5 points in his last 5 games, and the theme of the draft here with running backs, he's had 4 or 5 catches in 4 of his last 5. So he's another big receiving running back to go along, with Gentry, who I've got. So between those two and Sherrod, we're getting a lot of running backs here who catch passes today that can help you out.
All right, I wanted both those
Yeah,
running
I
backs.
like
So
that
you sniped me, gentlemen. So I'm going to hold off on the running back because at this point, I am the only one who needs a running back, and I don't think there's anyone who stands out. So I'm going to go the wide receiver who I like. I'm going to stay in the group of 5. The number of targets that he has been getting is just silly. 22 targets the last 2 games. I'm going Reggie Brown of James Madison. Also, in 2 of the last 5 games, he scored over 33 fantasy points. So I'll take Reggie Brown here. They're on the road against Georgia State, and I think Georgia State will put points on the board. So I like this as a upper level contest between these 2 teams.
Right. Yeah, James Madison's just been amazing. It's
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a shame. I've heard a lot of announcers really try to but there's nothing that's going to be done to change their situation and not being able to go to a bowl or even in the conference championship. But it's really sad that they're not going to be able to compete in any postseason games again.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's especially with some of the other teams, that are going to be bowl eligible.
Right.
And they won't be. That's a shame.
Exactly.
To be honest. I do like that pick. Like I said, I have a lot more receivers that I like, and I don't have just a whole lot of tight ends that I like. So I think we're gonna go. Go that route. Let me check.
Well, while you're looking,
for 5 points out of my tight end on the waiver wire right now.
Yeah, this was probably the toughest week to track down tight ends, in my opinion. It seems like, even the good ones, you don't know when they're going to be good anymore. Every really good one, every elite one has gotten hurt. And now there's like another crop emerging whose names we don't even know. So we're just having to dig deep to find tight ends that can even get a 6 or 7 points, I think, for this week.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with one that I've kind of liked this guy all season long. I think he has double digits in 3 of his last 4 games, and that's going to be Alex Bowman from Tulane.
Okay.
He is 1% owned.
God, I see him.
And they play ECU, who is 118th at Fantrax has versus tight end. So if I have to go out on a limb, I'm going to go out on a limb on Alex.
You didn't take one of the 3 that I have listed. So with that, I'm going to and I feel okay about the 3 I've got, but since you didn't take one of those, and I'll go ahead and skip tight end. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 5 quarterbacks that I listed. None have been taken. The theme all year has been kind of the abundance of quarterbacks that are available to take in a pinch. So with that, I think I will finish off my wide receiver, and he's not the last man standing. I've got three, but he definitely stands out among the three I've got left, and that's Kelly Akari from UTEP. He's 7% owned. He had a dud 2 weeks ago following a 42-point game, but then he bounced back last night. He had 24.6 last night. He's still getting 9 targets a game, even in the game where he had a dud. They weren't good targets or efficient targets. So I like his matchup a lot versus Western Kentucky. Also, they're really bad on defense against the pass. I'm not scared by the dud since he's now had 2 of his last 3 games over 24 points, and he's getting the targets regardless. So I think versus Western Kentucky, you see another game where he can at least approach 20 points or better, versus those guys, and then that gets the tough positions out of the way, in my opinion.
So I'm looking at the board here, and we all need quarterbacks.
Yep.
Tight end, I got 3 that I don't think there's any real difference, so I'm going to skip that.
Right.
And running back, I know I can pick my crop later because you've each
right.
taken 2. So I'm going to go my number 1 quarterback on the board right now. Okay. And I can't believe the season he's having. I got to tip my hat to him. I'm going Chandler Rogers of North Texas. They're hosting Frank Harris in UTSA. And if you haven't been watching, Frank Harris is healthy again, folks. And Frank Harris is playing good. So I think this is really a sneaky game that should go over 70. And I like Rodgers at home in this spot. So I'll take the quarterback who I think has the greatest chance of nearing 40 points.
And I had to double check, John. I wasn't even sure you were going to be legal there. He's 29%. So
29%. I saw
a little bit. 29, yeah, 29. So you got in just at the wire, but it does count. He definitely won't be available in the final.
Let me slow my pick down just in case. Maybe before the show's over, he'll go to 30.
Maybe it'll go over.
We've got to let him. Yep. Rodgers is one of those guys that, I think he's been mentioned or at least drafted in like the last 4 weeks, and it's amazing he hasn't made it over 30%. And I think people are starting to finally figure out that his production in that offense is not a fluke.
No, I agree with that. He was definitely on my list. Not number 1, but definitely
on the list. He wasn't on mine because I just assumed he was over 30 for some dumb reason. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was looking around and I'm like, wait, they said 30 because when I thought it was 25, I had him off the list, and then I'm like, wait a second, I gotta look at this again.
Yep.
All right. Well, I know I'm going to pull a Nino here and butcher this name, but we're going to go. What is it? Nicholas Vattiato. Yep. We'll go that route. 12% owned. We talked about them a little bit before. German, when you took Elijah Metcalf, somebody's going to throw Metcalf the ball. It's going to be Nicholas. Coming off a 30.9 game against Liberty, and they also had the bye, so they should be good and rested. 3 games in a row over 20 plus points, and actually 4 out of 5.
I've got him at 24 points in 5 of his last 6. Even better. Yeah.
Wow. Better. Okay.
Yep. And like we said, it's not a very good New Mexico State pass defense that he and Metcalf are going against. So, look at this. We got multiple picks from multiple Conference USA teams. So we're I don't know if they all play midweek, but we'll see. It could be some fun midweek waiver watch draft action going on here. So
no, I like it.
Okay, I guess I will fill in my quarterback spot here. Well, no, I'm not. I guess I don't have to because you guys have. So I'll save my quarterback spot. Try to be a little strategic. Not that there's a lot of tight ends to choose from, but I guess I will go ahead and get my tight end out of the way because I have to. And I'll just say I was looking between 3 guys. I like Trey Watson from Fresno. Cardenas from UTSA has kind of stepped up been all right, but maybe not consistent enough for me. And then we've got Sean Brown, who Willie had a couple weeks ago, and then he had a couple of slow games, but seems to be bouncing back for Jackson State. Um, but this morning, I took my notes early yesterday, and I didn't have Trey Watson on this list when the morning started, but I like what he did last night. Um, he had 8 points to follow up 24.6. Now, listen to what I said. I'm happy with a guy who had 8 points last night at tight end. But you know what? He had 24.6 the week before, which tells me that, Fresno is looking his way. He's getting 4 to 6 targets a game, which for a tight end these days, I'll take that. I'll take 5 targets a game if it's consistent, and his targets seem to be coming consistently. So I'll go with Trey Watson from Fresno against Boise, who, again, according to Fantrax, is very bad against tight ends at 125th. So, I'll hope that number is true. Trey Watson.
Am I back up now?
And you're back up, John.
All right. I just flipped the screen. Oh, there he is.
You're fine.
I don't know. I've been watching him, looking at the box scores. He is an interesting for maybe a floor play at running back. I'm going to go Kadarius Callaway of Old Dominion. Yep. He's getting double-digit carries in the last 4 weeks. He doesn't have a lot of PPR upside, so I noticed that both of you gentlemen were smart and you took the PPR upside guys. So I don't get that, which is a little bit concerning. But he is playing Coastal Carolina this week, and I'm not exactly, boy, have they fallen off the map. So I'm going to take Callaway here, and hopefully he gets in the end zone for me so I get a nice, at least a 10-point floor.
Yeah, John, believe it or not, I think he's a guy that's been on our waiver watch draft list here since he had the big game against Marshall like 4 weeks ago. So, people were a little bit scared of him because he started off the season with like 3 games with under 5 carries. He had the 11 carries or something like that against Marshall with 3 touchdowns over 60 yards in that game. So people that have been tuning in kind of know this history, but he's the former athlete that was a 5-star, committed to Alabama, had to go to the JUCO route to Eastern Mississippi, and has really emerged for Old Dominion as a solid running back who, he had just a slightly down week last week, but really the last 3 games he's had pretty decent performances, or really good to decent performances. So I think that's a good safe pick, coming in. He's a guy that should get you at least 15.
That's what I'm hoping. I'd be happy with that right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, Willie, in this interesting format draft, you get the last pick in the middle here. So go ahead. Or your last pick.
Good. I stumbled on this guy last night, and I just can't deny the production. He stepped on the scene in a big loss against Texas back September 23rd. We're going to go Monterey Baldwin from Baylor.
Ooh, he's good.
He's his last 5 games, 11.1, 29, 23.6, 13.1, and then 23.7 against Iowa State. So he's going to get you 9 targets, which for him translates into about 6 catches for looking like almost 95 yards. So he scored 3 out of his last 4 games.
Yeah, he's off my radar. I don't know too much about the kid, so I always like when I can find a name that I can go look up and see if he can help me somewhere else.
Yeah. There's no T's in Monterey, just so you know when you're looking him up.
Monterey? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Monterey.
All right. Okay, good job. So I'm going to close my team out. It's a quarterback that I had a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned it's Garrett Green from West Virginia, who this is the guy that. I like every week to kind of pick out the guy who it's sinful that is not over 30%. And this is our guy this week that has literally proven himself week in and week out, with the exception of that week that he got hurt, which really wasn't his fault at all. He's got 1 game that brings his average down much lower than what it is. But this guy's averaging like a true 28 points a game. He's had 20 plus in 6 of his last 7, 25 points in 5 of 7. He's balanced. He's a great dual threat option. He's getting 11 to 12 carries a game for anywhere between 50, 60 yards up to 117 yards. He's as good as it gets in fantasy, in my opinion. And he hasn't fallen off yet. And he's going against BYU, who's not stellar. West Virginia has proven that they're actually a pretty good team this year. They were the underdogs against UCF and kind of blew that line out of the water. I think West Virginia's on a mission to prove that they're a lot better than they were last year, and it's all behind Garrett Green at this point, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with him. And it looks like he's up to 23% now. So he it went up quite a bit even overnight. Maybe it looks like, according to my notes. But there you go. Get him if you can.
It's funny because I've been riding him in my DFS lineups for the last 3 weekends.
Mm-hmm.
He's been great for me, and I was enjoying that game yesterday.
Yeah.
He's good. He's what, 5? He's like 5'11" or 6 feet. He's not the biggest guy, but man, he's a good quarterback, like a really good college quarterback.
Yeah.
They got something brewing at West Virginia. They got some offensive players there. I mean, they're going to be.
They really are clicking. Yeah.
Yeah, they got that Jalen White. He looks so explosive. He's an interesting player for next year. Donaldson just pounds you. I do think they need a better receiver. They need someone to rise. But I like what they're doing, the Mountaineers. And to close off the list here, I don't understand. I have to admit, I did not watch Wyoming Boise State yesterday. All I know is Wyoming got destroyed, and I can't believe it. So I'm going to go tight end Trenton Welch of Wyoming.
Okay.
They're playing Colorado State at home this week. I can't imagine Peasley being that bad. He was good until last week. I mean, he was playing decent football.
Right.
So I think this is a bounce back spot at home for the Cowboys. And if you go before last week's game, he had 12.8 and 19.4 fantasy points. So maybe I get a bounce back spot here from Trenton Welch.
Right. Okay. Yeah, he's a name that kind of the last 2 preseasons I've thought he might emerge as a bigger tight end name, that would be up there with the elite guys, and he just hasn't lived up to that. But I think at this point in the season, he's been around for 2 years as a consistent name that's flashed here and there. So it's probably as good as you're going to get in terms of picks this late in the season at the tight end spot.
Yeah, I think there wasn't much on the tight end list, that's for sure.
Yeah. Amazingly, somehow I have I mentioned mine earlier. Like I do like, maybe Sean Brown he's going against South Carolina, but they have a really bad defense. So even a team like Jacksonville State they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. So I almost took Sean Brown there. And like I said, Cardenas at tight end for UTSA seems to be becoming one of Frank Harris's, new favorite targets. John or Willie, maybe you've got one. Since we're missing a 4th person in the draft, let's throw a few extra names out here that you might have taken, or that are left over that you think can help people. Maybe Willie, start us off with who.
As far as tight end, River Helms, Western Kentucky, he's been doing decent the last few weeks. He's coming up that board. I'd like Kendall Carr from Coastal Carolina. Arliss Boardingham from Florida. I kind of like him, but I do not like him this week because they play Georgia. But after that's another name that you might think about at tight end for sure.
John, what about you? Not necessarily tight end exclusive, but any names that you're really shocked that none of us took that or guys you're having second thoughts that maybe you should have taken already?
The first thing I would say, the running backs are drying up. So if you need a running back, you better spend your fab or hopefully you get them quickly. The wide receivers are still deep. Another guy at James Madison, if Reggie Brown's on a roster, I do like Elijah Surratt. He's also been very good for James Madison. So I think the wide receivers are still very deep. So you can go there. And the quarterbacks are very deep also. And if you wanted to go, Jordan McLeod, I don't know why I'm focusing on James Madison, but Jordan McLeod is 28%. And I don't think anyone today, I think he went last week, did Joey Aguilar. Did someone take
both of those? Yeah, those are the 2 names I was going to mention at quarterback. Yeah. Aguilar is one of the guys that helped Nino to his big win last week. they're playing Marshall, who, like I said earlier, that's a team I watch every minute of every game, and Marshall is really falling apart. They don't have any enthusiasm or chemistry, it seems like. So he could have a field day against Marshall the way they're playing right now. So that's a good one.
And I got one more. Wide receiver is going to be Daniel Jackson from Minnesota.
Yep.
They didn't play this, or did they play this week? Did I miss?
Yeah, he had 20. Wow. He had 25 this week.
Look that up. Okay.
So he has back to back. He had 7 for 101 against Iowa the week before, and then he had 7 for 120 in a tutty yesterday.
Yeah, the wide receiver I have left over that I would have taken if it came down to it was Jabri Barber from Troy.
Oh yes.
He had a huge game yesterday. He's somebody I thought would do a little bit more up to this point in the season, but he's getting 10 targets a game. They've just been poorly thrown targets, apparently, because he doesn't have the catches to match the 10 targets. But yesterday, it all clicked. He was up there. I think he had a 31-point game, if I'm not mistaken. Troy is really rolling. So that's the one name I had left over at receiver.
And then so one more quarterback, since everyone else has been mentioned. Deion Chris is still sitting out here, 21% owned.
And and he's playing Arkansas State, who's pretty poor.
Yep.
Since he's been a starter, he's only had one game under 20, guys. So Deion Chris was a name mentioned way back in week 4 by Chris Moxley, when I knew nothing about a guy named Deion Chris, and I picked him up, and he's helped me out throughout the season in a few leagues. The last Sam Houston guy I'll mention.
Go ahead.
Even Shoemaker at quarterback, if you're in a really deep league, he's only 2% owned. So if you want to jump on this Sam Houston bandwagon with us, again, he's playing against Kennesaw State and should have a big one. He's had over 19 in his last 5, and he's had 2 touchdowns in each of those last 5 games. Jared mentioned last week that's when the offense really started to click for Sam Houston, is when they put Shoemaker in and really changed the direction of that offense. So that's your third Sam Houston guy that could, if you want to join John and I on that Sam Houston bandwagon.
Well, no more Sam Houston guys, but one more running back. He is coming off a bye, so he didn't play yesterday. But his last game against UConn, 26 carries, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's going to be Naquan Wright from UCF.
Yep. And I got one question for John as far as running backs, and this is the last guy I had, and that's Cam Edwards. I know UConn's playing Tennessee. One, is Rosa going to, or do you see Rosa coming back from his ankle injury, and then would they split time? And then, should anybody even consider anything from Connecticut against Tennessee next week?
No, I wanted to take Cam Edwards and bring the name up on, but you can't play him against Tennessee. I'm worried that Tennessee might put up 45 against UConn there. And right. I was reading, actually, because I'm featuring Cam Edwards in the waiver wire column this week. I was doing a little bit of homework. If you didn't know, he was a defensive back, and he was the New Haven Registered Player of the Year in the state of Connecticut. So we're talking about a very talented player who made the switch to running back earlier this season. And I think we've all been around long enough. Those high ankle sprains, man, we never know for sure, especially college reporting is even worse than the NFL when it comes to high ankle sprains. So I don't know if Rose is going to be back anytime soon.
Right. So that's the other concern is, one, he may not get the volume if Rosa comes back even for a handful of carries. And 2, they're playing Tennessee. So, maybe.
Well, and then yesterday, sorry, Jeremy, the coach came out and said that he's going to save the player from himself. Okay. That's why you didn't see Rosa yesterday.
That's very nice of the coach. All right, guys. It's been a blast. I guess I'll just ask any final names, because again, we didn't have a 4th person, so the more names the better this week, just since people are trying to make that final push to get to their playoff into their playoffs. This will be the last week for leagues that have 6 playoff teams, second to the last week for those leagues with 4 playoff teams.
I'm just looking.
I had another wide receiver. Okay, I had another wide receiver. Their offense is so explosive, but Tez Johnson from Oregon, he's 25% owned.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone? Here's a player I actually used him in a couple leagues this week. He wasn't great, but Kyron Drones, the quarterback of Virginia Tech, he's only on 10% of rosters now. He had a little bit of a down week against Syracuse, but they just blitzed Syracuse and they really took the foot off the pedal. Because I watched that whole game, and if you watched it, Virginia Tech, he was playing well, Drones, and I think he only threw the ball like 3 times in the second half or some ridiculous number. But he's been playing very good.
Yeah, no, he has. Once he got in, he took over and wasn't going to relinquish that starting spot. Sort of like the Arizona quarterback, Fafita. It doesn't look like Delora is going to make it back in if he keeps playing the way he's playing.
I know, he's been playing well, right?
Yeah. So, all right, John, to wrap this thing up, how many leagues do you think you're in for this season?
I'm in 9 redraft leagues.
Okay, and how are you doing overall? How are you happy?
I just got, it's funny. I'm such a nerd. I keep all my weekly records and standings right there, and I update them every Sunday morning. I am 61-29 in my leagues. And because some leagues have 2 games a week. I don't know. I think we play. No, we don't in the Kings Classic, but in the FSGA and in.
Right. Yeah. You have the double
matchups. So right now I'm on target to make the playoffs in all 9, but I'm teetering. I'm 5-4, 6-3. But hey, I'll make a good push here and see what happens. But I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I do know that in the last 2 years, every league I've been in against John, he's been super impressive. Like you'll see him behind midday, and he always manages to just win every day.
Somehow.
Yeah, this is probably the most I've been in as well. I'm in, I guess, 7 leagues that would have a playoff, and then maybe a handful of best balls. I think I'm on schedule to make 6 playoffs in 6 out of those 7. Including the infamous Sickos League. John, we got to get you in the Sickos League next year. Have you heard about this?
I've heard about the Sickos League, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if my wife might kill me if I have to take that much time to do the Sickos League.
Jake, our guy Jake the Snake, Debbie Jake, he eliminates the top 250 players based on average draft pick, and then you're starting your draft basically at the equivalent of round 10 of your normal draft.
Oh my God! And then the other players are not. They're not available all year long.
It's a best ball, so you just got to roll with.
Best ball. Oh well, I could do that. I mean, that's fun because I do have.
Get you into that.
Let's see how many best ball. I got to count those up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 best balls, but I don't really count. Those are just for fun.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great in kind of March, April, May, just to get an idea of where everybody stands. Everybody's on equal playing. On an equal foot there because we all know the same at that point. So even if things change from March to June, it's changed for everybody. So that's the fun of those, and just kind of keeps you in practice. I try to do 1 a month. I think I did 1 a month from March to August, and before the real drafts started for me. Willie B is a little more low key. Willie, what are you in, a handful? Maybe 4 or 5?
Yeah, I got about just a handful. I had to get the kid at to OSU this year, so
Willie's youngest.
Took it a little easier, but we'll probably double that up for next year for sure.
All right. Well, is everybody?
Can I tell you one thing we haven't talked about because it's waiver wire? I was drafting the heck out of Ollie Gordon early. I have him on 4 of my best ball.
Nice.
And then what was with the news out of Oklahoma State? Gundy's like, I don't like him. He's not going to start. I mean, what was he thinking? Like, seriously, these college coaches drive me to drink because how could you not see the talent? Like, what is wrong?
Exactly.
Like, was it personal? Like, did he take your underwear out of the shower? Like, I just don't understand. Like, he is so much better than everyone on that football team. It's mind-blowing. Well, but that's just
I'll just throw a wild speculation out there. Since he's on the same team with Gundy's son, maybe he doesn't get along with the son, and he was going to punish him.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right?
But like, when he got that extra,
it's illogical. There's no way you could have not seen the talent, right? There's or you're not a football coach. Like, I just don't understand what's going. Like, it's not football related. Clearly, It could not have been football
The
related.
funniest thing last night is,
Right.
as they started to put that game away, the announcers got a little more lighthearted in their commentary, and they said that this week it came like an article came out of Ollie Gordon's most likely destinations for next year, and they said somebody showed Gundy. And it was like Oklahoma State, Alabama, and some other school. And he said, well, I mean, hey, he said, at least Oklahoma State's number one on the list in the prediction.
Can you imagine if he went to Oklahoma, he might be the number one, or I mean, to Alabama, he might become the number one fantasy.
Yeah, that'd be the
next
Jahmyr
year.
Gibbs move, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope we've helped everybody out, John. We look forward to seeing your polls, your waiver pickups on Fantrax. All the information you provide for us week in and week out has been super helpful. You are as good as it gets in the business, and we really appreciate you helping us out today.
Well, very kind. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And you gentlemen are great for having me on, and thanks for playing in the Kings Classic. Hopefully we get a meet in the championship game, because I do think we played week 1, if my memory serves me right. So we haven't played for a long time. So hopefully we'll meet again.
You won't get any revenge on us, but we look forward to seeing you in the playoffs. All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
Willie B, final words?
Thank you for watching and listening. Good luck this week.
All right.